Hello, it's Jack Tutor here from Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Hatis Noit, a Japanese vocal performer from Hokkaido, now residing in London. Her new album, Aura, is out now on Erased Tapes. Save for one sound, it's entirely comprised of her voice, this chameleonic presence which produces low rhythms, soaring fireworks, noises resembling birdsong or other animals, expressing seemingly multiple emotions simultaneously. Melodically, it's a very forthright record, like the melodies get stuck in my head, those looped melodies that gather up and accumulate weight as they go. But because Hatis doesn't use language, just uses pure sounds, pure phonemes, there's no one way to go. I feel that this album generates different emotions within me depending on where I'm listening to it and the environment that it's interacting with. It's really cool and an amazing headphone listen. We talk a bit about the mixing of this record, but it's quite astonishing, so definitely listen to it on headphones. I'll include all the links in the show notes, as always. And this was really quite a special conversation with Hatis. I mean, the stories that she brought, particularly the one with regards to the last record, are pretty astonishing. So huge thanks to Hatis for pouring her energy into this. If you want to support Crucial Listening, one way you can do that is through Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/crucial listening. You can donate one-off or monthly, any amount you choose to support the costs involved in hosting the podcast and the energy spent making it. Otherwise, thank you as always for listening and sharing your feedback on the show. Okay, without further delay, this is Hatis Noit on Crucial Listening. Hello Hatis, welcome to Crucial Listening.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So we're going to talk about your 3 important records. Before we get to those, I want to talk about your latest album, Aura, on Erased Tapes. So one thing that poked out to me when I was reading about the record was that, and you'll have to confirm whether this is true, that you recorded the vocals in a single 8-hour stretch. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was the hottest day of the summer in Berlin that year.
God.
I believe it was 2018, just before the COVID happened, the last summer before it. At that time, our dear friend, mixing engineer Francesco, was quite busy
Right.
during the summer, and we are quite spontaneous to ask him to record that whole album. So obviously he was quite occupied by the other project, but he was kind enough to offer us a kitchen of the studio. So whilst doing the other bigger project, he offered us a space in the kitchen, and we recorded the whole album. Most of the vocal takes of the album within 8 hours in a day.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a true story.
So does that align with how you like to work? Are you someone who tends to record quickly, or was there like a time pressure, or yeah,
actually it worked quite well to me, because the whole concept of this album was more like recreate my actual live performance. So for that live performance, like, we can't really redo it or re-record it, retake it, right? So like keeping everything so short, and like whilst we are very, very focused on the performance, was actually like very much helpful for us to retain the vibe and focus for whole recording.
So 3 of the songs on the record were written after you moved to London, is that right?
I think the couple of songs were quite old. Aura and the last song, Say Talk. And Inori is actually after I moved to London, but Angelus Novus was also old. So actually, 3 of those songs from the album was made before I moved to London.
And how easy do you find it to generate a record where the origins of the songs are in, your kind of life before London and then your life in London? Is it easy to bring that all together into a coherent record for you?
To me, I don't really feel any struggle to put them together. But it's an interesting question. Actually, of course, naturally, all the song has more, I don't know, not attachment, but like emotionally connected. You see what I mean? Like, to me, like I can connect to those older songs more, I guess. Because to me, doing live performance, those songs are very important to find the connection to the song, each songs. So of course, newer songs still like new to me to perform. So in that sense, older song has more connection for me. But like to put them all together, I didn't feel any struggle.
Yeah. You've mentioned as well about working with a particular mixing engineer. I know that there was, listening to the record, it's evident that mixing is a huge part of putting this record together. I mean, I think what I found particularly wonderful is being that it's 99% your voice. Everything sounds so full. Like from that one sound source, the entire space is totally filled up, and there's these lovely uses of mixing and panning. I'm thinking of one at the moment where you've got your voice kind of traveling from left to right and right to left and crossing over. It's like, it's like planes, or it's beautiful. So how did you find the mixing process? Who was involved in that? And what was the mixing process like for you?
Actually, it's such an important question for the process of making of this album, because like as I said, I recorded this whole album in Berlin with Francesco Donadello from Italy, based in Berlin. But like after the recording, I mean, we know the COVID happened, and like we couldn't go back to Berlin anymore. And like first we tried to do it remotely, but like instantly we could tell this is this is not working, you know. Like doing mixing process remotely is so tough for us. And yeah, we at some point we decided to find new mixing engineer here in London, our local. And yeah, very fortunately, just like in our neighborhood, we found another great mixing engineer called Marta Saloni. And actually, her studio is just 10 minutes from a place by walk.
Right, perfect.
That was amazing. And yeah, we started working together after the pandemic happened.
Obviously, it's going to be, I guess, a real change of pace, right? Going from recording them in a manner which reflects your live environment, and then going into mixing. I mean, how long did you spend mixing the record, and how easy was it to stop mixing the record?
I mean, the mixing phase is the longest phase of this making album. I don't know, like almost 3 years we took.
Wow.
2 or 3 years, yeah. At some point I was really about to give up.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's multiple reasons. Yeah, very tough to mix, and also, you know, I was quite depressed by the whole lockdown situation, and then at some point I had no energy to think about album or any production.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think biggest reason was that.
Well, I'm glad you stuck with it. The record is really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
People should definitely check it out. I will pop links in the show notes. I've had some really special listening experiences with this one myself, so yeah, I implore people to dive in. So, Hatis, let's go to your 3 important records now. A question I like to ask before going into any of the records individually is about how you thought about the word important. So, did you interpret the word important in a particular way in order to come up with the selection of records that you did?
Yeah, this time, like usually I think maybe important is more like important to build up my own music, or like, you know, biggest influence or anything like that. But I found it's a bit boring. so this time particularly I pick up the 3 albums by the importance of the connection to my personal life, or my certain memory of, you know, deeply connected to certain memory, or because of that I listen to that album again in my album, you know, in certain time. Yeah.
Nice. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, okay, then maybe Meredith Monk's one first.
Awesome, great. So you picked the record Mercy from 2002, I believe. Maybe give me a little introduction then as to why this one is important to you.
Okay, when I was in uni, a friend of mine just gave me this album, saying like, you might love this, you know. And at the time I was a vocalist in a musical band, doing some sort of like the music between like black metal and post rock.
Oh, cool.
Some sort of like a mixture of those. And then I was a vocal, like doing some operatic singing.
Wow.
In it. And yeah, obviously it's not like a conventional pop music, and so probably the person who thought I might like this, and I actually loved that. But To be honest, when the first time or like when I listened to it, I was quite shocked, and I wasn't even sure if this is music even, because it was so experimental to me. It's especially in terms of the style of singing. So at some point it sounds really beautiful, but at some point it sounds almost, I don't know, ugly, or like sounds quite off, or it's definitely something very different from what I had listened until then. So yeah, it was a big shock.
So how long did it take for that to change? So I guess at some point the shock kind of migrated into enjoying the record.
Yeah.
So how long did that take?
Yeah. It was really like gradually and really slowly it dawned on to me. But it was more like I wasn't sure, but I want to listen to it again. Sort of like that feeling. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I don't understand this, so that I feel like needing listen to it more, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was not just pleasant listening, but definitely there was something.
Yeah, that to me is fascinating, because it's almost like there's a subconscious part of you which is ahead of yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, why else would you sign yourself up for something that you've already determined is unpleasant? It's so interesting.
Yeah, in a way, it's way more interesting than some, I don't know, any perfect singing, perfectly polished operatic singing, or perfectly polished classical singing or choir. It sounded so much more interesting than that.
Yeah. What's your relationship with the record look like since? So you discovered it, were shocked by it, and then kind of aligned with it, found, that you enjoyed it. I guess this record is in this list because it pokes out in terms of the other records that you discovered. So what is it about Mercy that has allowed it to stick with you, so that even, so many years after your university experience, that it's one that now you'd call important?
I think, in my life so far, I've listened to this album so many times, and every time I listen to it, I still feel kind of goosebumps, the beauty of it, and that sensation when I listen to something. I think one of the things I want to create by my music too, something very hard to explain by words, but we definitely feel something by that, and through the sound of voice we see some sort of sensation, memory, or anything like that. I think it's so important to me. When I make music, my music got some sort of the energy or power with it.
You refer to, I guess, something that kind of defies easy articulation in language, right? And such a prominent aspect of this record by Meredith Monk is the absence of lyricism, right? It's all just kind of raw phonetics, which is amazing. I mean, was that an aspect of the record that you connected with originally, or did that take some time as well to kind of reconcile yourself with? Because I think it's funny, I've having listened to pop music since I was little, and had this voice, kind of, had people say this thing to me a lot, like, I need to hear what they're trying to say, or what is that person singing about, or You know, it's a big part, particularly of, you know, British or Western pop music. It's like, yeah, but what are they actually saying? So, I mean, was that an aspect of it, of Meredith Monk's work that you're able to get on board with straight away, or did that take some time too?
Actually, in terms of what in the music, I don't think I originally care about words in music so much, because most of the time when we listen to the music from abroad, when we're in Japan, we don't really understand what they are singing actually.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
But still, we feel something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it was actually the way I am used to when I listen to music. But at the same time, in terms of Melody's work, it was to me, it sounded way more pure to hear the energy of the voice. And then I kind of realize like how far we can be free when we use voice.
Right.
You know, like before that, I kind of like try to sing nicely, or try to sing like well, or try to sing like as precise as possible, or something like that, you know, like more like focusing on technique. Of course, like Meredith is such a technical singer as well, but like clearly something more than that as well. So yeah, singing isn't just about technique, or singing just about having it just sounded beautiful or something like that. Yeah, that's what I learned from her, I think.
Some of the overtones and stuff that you get with particular vowel sounds and stuff, they sound so deliberate in Meredith's record, in your record too, and suddenly there's a moment where I think you're like, lyrics are preposterous, like they're ridiculous, because they become this really confining element within vocal timbre in order to you know, lay a particular narrative over the music. Suddenly, I think, especially when listening to a record like this, lyrics suddenly feel very constrictive, right? But with your music, I mean, was it always the case that you were going to not use words within your music, or was that ever a question for you?
To me, I think it was such a natural thing decide not to use word for this project, because I don't think I am the person who is good at using word or language, or I personally find myself is not very good at words.
Right. Okay.
So like always I found so much more energy within my body, but it's very hard to translate into words. So why don't we just decide not to use words? Like especially music would help to express that feeling without using words. So even though I use voice, normally comes with word, but it's not necessarily to be with words always. And
with Mercy, I'll just remark on one moment that really stuck out for me, but I want to get yours too. But there's a point in the piece titled Doctor Patient where the vocalist hits this high tone, which the note is so interesting. It sounds wrong when they first do it, and then they keep doing it. I guess you know what I'm talking about, but it alarmed me the first time I heard it, and then it alarmed me again when I heard it. It's an astounding decision to make, to do that.
Yeah.
Are there specific moments or sections of this work which really stand out to you?
I mean, like from the beginning, it was quite like striking to me when the first time I listened to it. Like starting with really, really beautiful vocal, but like within a minute, like goes really crazy, and then I can't almost believe it's the same person singing.
Yeah.
But what, it was completely like different from what I expect for this album, when I started listening to it. So like everything was almost like, what?
Yeah. Oh,
Should I keep listening to it, or like I kind of hesitated to listen to the album when my mama was in the same room. You see what I mean? Probably my mom thinks I went crazy, or I don't know.
Yeah. I think everyone who got into experimental music in their like teens and 20s had that same like, I'm going to close the door now and finish this.
I know.
Yeah. Hatis, let's go to your second important record now. So which one would you like to go for now?
The one by Yasukatsu Oshima.
Nice. So that's the record with Jeffrey Keezer, right? Released in 2007. Great. So yeah, give me a little introduction as to why this one's important to you.
This is one of the album I've listened to it again so many times in my life since I listened to this album for the first time. It was when I was still in Tokyo, and then at that time becoming a professional musician was like almost so realistic and impossible. I didn't even believe when I can be, in the future. Yeah, I was working in a company, and then I really, really hated it. Like going to the office, I was completely like a weird person in the office, and totally not motivated to work. But at the same time, I felt so guilty to not to be motivated with my colleague, because all of my colleagues seemed quite happy being in the office. It was a design company. I was working there as a designer, and it wasn't such a horrible company, but I just find it quite distracting for me to make music. In fact, when I was there during that time, I couldn't make any music at all.
Oh wow.
Just working was so hard, and it took me up so much time for it and energy as well. But this music is from Okinawa and Amami Islands as well. It's a southernmost islands in Japan. And it's got such a beautiful, relaxing, laid-back vibe, and sometimes sounds quite melancholic. And every time I listen to it, really, really is my attention. And especially in the summer, like when I listen to it in the summer, I can totally imagine as if I'm in the island with tropical climates, and so relaxing, and I get surrounded by nature. So every time I listen to it, I feel so relaxed and kind of very calm and happy. And yeah, almost every summer I listen to this album again and remember. Yeah, I've been also to Okinawa and Amami, so that reminds me of the memory as well. And it's such a nice experience through music.
With that experience in the office in Tokyo, did you discover this record while you were working at that company, or how did it come into your life?
Yeah, when I was there, like some person just recommended me this album, and I found it really nice. And in the office or when I commute by like such overcrowded subway to the office,
Yeah.
but like even in there, like when I listen to it, like I feel a bit better with this music.
It's an interesting pairing, right? So Oshima is with Jeffrey Keezer, who was in Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers in the later years of that band, and playing the piano on this. On paper, it sounds, I don't know, it's not a guarantee that it will necessarily work, but it's so beautifully done. I mean, is the pairing, the duet aspect of this part of the record that appeals to you too?
Yeah, and I mean, I also like Yasukatsu Oshima's solo pieces. Like when he plays those islands folks as well. I really like it as well. But I mean, this duet, like surprisingly working really, really well.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Wasn't it amazing? Yeah, as you said, I think it's quite rare. But like with no, I don't know, like it sounds so natural for them to be together musically. And then that gives me some sort of new aspect to the folk songs.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes folk songs are quite hard to be like rearranged in the context of modern music. Like sometimes it goes too far, or sometimes like we can clearly tell some modern composition, like modern composer struggle with it or something like that.
Absolutely.
Doesn't really working together. But like this case, it sounds so natural. It's so beautiful. Like it's just perfect.
Yeah.
That's also the point I like about this album.
I was reading about Yasukatsu Oshima. I understand that the sanshin he uses was made by his grandfather, and so I guess there's like a real deep-rooted family connection maybe to the instruments and perhaps the music, but then I guess being a unusually young person to be playing these kind of traditional Okinawan folk music, perhaps he feels able to kind of be on the brink of both of those worlds quite comfortably, between the old folk tradition and the modernizing energies within it too, which is really cool.
I agree.
How old were you when you discovered this record?
Almost 23 or something, when I was in Tokyo. A very early time. So I moved to Tokyo from Osaka, and then I remember I really, really struggled with the new life in Tokyo. Like I have almost no friend, and then like new job and new company, and then everything is new. I really struggle with that. So that this music really helped me somehow.
And my final question on it is, do you have a favorite song on the record?
Most of the song from this album is actual folk songs from Okinawa or Amami, but the first song is called Ryusei, is his original piece, but using like Okinawan or Amami way of like scale and playing in sanshin. Now I find it so beautiful, not just playing old classic songs of folks, but also he somehow like trying to do a new thing in the folk context. I think it's such a brave thing, and then to me it sounded completely like working together well and integrated with those other songs from actually the like old traditional folk songs.
花は咲かぬみな咲きかきき見ぐるよのくのちなあんくまと旅の果て品咲の果てはなし
Hatis, let's go to your final important record. So, yeah, if you could tell me the name of it first.
It's a Tabula by Pärt.
Nice. And if you wouldn't mind as well, just give me a little introduction as to why this one's important to you too.
Yeah. I mean, if I pick up just only one album as an important album, this will be the one.
Oh, cool!
Like
Wow.
in terms of the connection, emotional connection to it. This album particularly very much to me connected to the memory, my personal memory when I went back to my birthplace, Shiretoko, Hokkaido, for the first time since I left there. I was early 20s, and then I left there when I was 5 or 6 years old. So like almost like 15 or like 20 years since then. And yeah, during that trip, like whole trip, I was listening to this album again. It was just after New Year Day, and in my birthplace, Shiretoko, there was a like quite heavy snow, and everything seems white and really quiet. Especially, it was so dark because like whole day it was snowing,
Right.
like
Wow.
crowded and snowing. So like even when it's daytime, it was quite dark, and almost no one is out there. And yeah, I was walking in the town a little bit, but I was alone, and but I don't really enjoy it because it feels very sad, no one is there. It's just snowing, it's so cold and it's so grey and dark, and it wasn't very pleasant walk, but it was so beautiful. I mean, the reason why I had a trip to go back to my birthplace was the death of my father. And I actually, in my life, I couldn't see him after I left this birthplace. So since when I was 6 or 5 years old, I couldn't see him until he died. And yeah, when he died, I got some message from the council person, and I visited him to say goodbye, and yeah, I felt extremely sad, and I kind of regretted that I didn't visited him again. Like it was because my parents divorced, and in Japan we normally don't do like parents got the equal rights to look after kids.
Right,
More like only one from the parents got the right to look after kid, and the other one have almost no rights to see their kids again since divorce. Yeah. So my case, I was raised by my mom, and I couldn't see my father since then. So I regretted that I didn't visit him, and or like so many like complex feeling I had, so that I kind of felt like I have to visit my birthplace again after his funeral. So I took extra days off with the company where I worked, and I had a trip to visit my birthplace alone. So it was an extremely sad trip.
Yeah.
And so lonely, and then lots of, I don't know, like so much strong emotion, and lots of crying. But at the same time, I saw so many beautiful things in that trip, like almost like a miracle. Like I could just by chance meet someone who knows my father during the trip, and then just spontaneously, like they told me how my father was, what my father was like. No, I didn't expect that at all.
Oh, wow.
I know. It was such a beautiful trip, and it was like revisiting my own origin, the half of my origin. Of course, I know my mother very well, but until that time, I felt always like half of myself is empty. I have no information about it or something like that,
Yeah.
So that trip was, for me, totally like a refinding myself and refinding my own origin, the half of it. And like it's also the first time to visit my birthplace since then, since the divorce. So then during the whole time I was listening to this album, and it perfectly fit with the scenery of Hokkaido, especially in winter. So like it sounds very serious and very minimal. It totally like I don't know, synchronizing with the rhythm of snow and wind. And just scenery has almost no sound, just wind, but the music perfectly fit with that. So every time I don't so basically this album attached to such a heavy personal memory of mine, and heavy emotion on myself as well. So I don't really listen to it so often.
Right, of course.
After that, but somehow it's so important to me. And for this interview, I actually, how long have I didn't listen to it? Maybe for the first time, like for 10 years or something.
Oh my word, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is I came up with this album. It's definitely so important to me. And then I listened to it again, and then it was almost like a flashback. But beautiful one. Like immediately I could connect to the memory and the cold of the air, like, you know, the touch of the air, like the humid, and yeah, like the sound of the scenery and the color of the, yeah, and the snow and nature and ocean and town, and like really really empty town. Yeah, it was such a beautiful experience, so I have to say thank you for reminding me of this album. It's just amazing album.
Whoa, what an incredible story, Hatis. I mean, was this album important to you before you took that trip back to your birthplace?
No. It's just one of my favorite album, I would say. Of course, it's such a great album, but it doesn't obviously have such important meaning to me. But I somehow decided this as a soundtrack for the trip, and then it sounded almost like meant to be, and it just perfectly fit. And since then, this album has become such an important album for my life.
Because it's been so long since you last listened to it, I'm curious about how much of the record you could remember before you listened to it recently. Like, was there anything, when you listened to it the other day, was there anything about the record that surprised you, or was it just as you remember, or what was that like?
It was more like, I remember this, you know. And then that memory of the sound, that totally comes with the memory of the trip, this like visual memory, and then like audio memory, and then like the senses of my body's memory as well. Like, I remember this, you know. Yeah. It was like a trip or meditation or something like that. I can instantly travel to that time.
Is there a section on this record that is your favorite? Any parts that really stick out for you?
Very hard to point out a certain point. So basically, I listen to it like again, repeat the whole album during the trip. So it's more like seamless. I don't really recognize like the piece to like individually, those individual pieces, more like the whole sequence, and repeat from the end to the beginning. So more like, you know, almost like drone.
Right.
See what I mean?
Yeah,
you see what I
yeah.
mean? They're seamlessly connected. Like even the end of the album to the beginning of the album, you know.
That's
like
brilliant.
That long time of the sound just connected to like a whole almost a 1 week of trip.
Wow, that's so cool.
Something like that.
What I love is, so it sounds like the record is almost like a circle for you, and then it's also made this loop in time for you too. That's incredibly lovely.
Because this album sometimes goes really minimal and quiet, and then sometimes it goes really intense, right? That also like really in sync with the snow and wind, you know, like quite when the snow went sometimes quite stormy,
Right.
and then at some point like it goes really quiet all of a sudden. So, like, in that sense as well, like it totally in sync with the scenery, especially with nature.
Hatis, thank you so much for going through these 3 records and for talking a bit
thank
about
you too
your own record. This has been wonderful. I will, like I say, direct people once more to listen to Aura. It's wicked. I listened to it on the beach, looking up at the sky, and it was super special. So, yes, people check it out, please. And thank you once more.
Thanks very much for having me.
And to everyone listening, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.